Can your heart really explode? Not like explode, like just explode open like we see in movies, right? Can a hickey actually kill you? What happens if your body isn't claimed at the hospital? And does being sick actually make you smell worse? Today, we're answering some of the most chaotic, oddly specific, and strangely educational medical questions that the internet could dream up. Let's dive right in. Is it true you can die from a hickey? Yes, technically you could, but it's like super crazy rare. With that amount of suction, it increases the risk of a blood clot forming. You can get a blood clot in one of the vessels of your neck, specifically an artery, because it's going to your brain. So it goes up to your brain, triggering a stroke. I can remember one case that was cited in the news, I think like 2016, where it was a young boy, I think late teenage years, that ended up getting a hickey, ended up getting a stroke, and then shortly died within a few hours of this whole event. It does happen. What happens if you accidentally put super glue in your eye? Unfortunately, it does happen more often than you think. In my 15 years of doing this, I've seen it at least 5 times. Rare, but it does happen. It just stinks. People's eyelids are just glued shut, and you got to figure out how to get this glue out of there. You can't rip it off. You're going to cause injury to the eyelid as well as the eye itself. Different types of ointments can try to break it down. And then once it's broken down, you got to be careful and examine the eye to see if there's corneal abrasions or lacerations, and treat appropriately with different antibiotic creams or ointments or drops as well. Let's pretend you pass away at the hospital. What happens if your family never claims you? Does your body get donated to science to be used by future med students? Actually, it's a really good question and depends on your state. If after 30 days the body is not claimed by anybody, it is the responsibility of the state. For example, in New York State, unclaimed bodies can be used for science and can be used in medical schools for anatomy classes, surgical practice, everything that you would think of relating to science. But say in other areas like LA County, unclaimed bodies are either cremated or buried in mass graves if they're not put into programs. Is boxed hair dye better or safer than going to a hairdresser and getting your hair dyed? Safer, not really, okay? So boxed hair dye, you just get it at the store and it's basically for everybody, right? So it's a one size fits all, which means that the chemicals that are in there are probably going to be a lot stronger, like ammonia and peroxide. We're talking about, say, allergic reactions to maybe the hair dye itself. Irritation from the hair dye causing like your skin to have a reaction, almost like a chemical burn. And then you always have the issue of once you've done all this stuff and you stripped your hair of all these different nutrients, it's brittle, it can break, it's dry, and so then you have to add all these other components to it. Versus if you're going to a hairstylist or a hairdresser, they're using chemicals as well, but it's basically more standardized to your hair, and they can tailor what they actually need to use, so that way they're using the minimum chemical to get your desired results. Do testicular prostesis exist? Yeah, they do. And why would somebody want them? Because they had cancer or trauma where they had their testicle removed, 1 or 2, and maybe for just cosmetic purposes, they want something there. You know, they do have them. They're innate and you can have different sizes of them, but usually they're made of silicone, and, you know, it's something to talk about with a urologist who is a specialist relating to the genitals. Have you ever seen babies that were the product of their parents being on Accutane? Accutane, isotretinoin, is basically a medication used for really, really severe acne. But the medication can be teratogenic. Teratogenic means basically it interferes with fetal development, causing massive and significant malformations during the development of the fetus. This usually occurs, especially if taken during the first trimester. So women who are on Accutane are typically advised to be on birth control, and sometimes even 2 different types of birth control, and to regularly get pregnancy tests because of the issues relating to these malformations that affect the heart, the lungs, the brain, organ development, everything. Is it normal to sneeze so hard that your arm goes numb? Well, it could happen. Hopefully it doesn't happen often, but most likely the mechanism of that has to do with the movement of your sneeze, as well as is it causing muscle contraction and spasming, pushing on the nerve going out your arm, meaning that the nerves of your arm go out your neck, across the muscles here, down through the armpit, out. And so yes, if you sneeze so hard causing muscle contraction or turning your head, it could cause some numbness, but it shouldn't last very long. And if you're having this happen more frequently, it's not going away, you definitely need to see a neurologist and possibly a vascular doc. MrBeast's recent video, lose 100 pounds, win $250,000. The guy had a trainer with him called Coach Wall. But on the morning of day 85, someone came in and said that the Coach Wall was found dead at his apartment. Many rumors are saying that his heart exploded while he was sleeping. So I wanted to ask, can your heart really explode? Not like explode, like just explode open like we see in movies, right? But could you have an explosion that rips open your heart, or massive trauma that causes a wall of your heart to rupture open? Yes, that could happen. But normal physiology, would your heart explode and just bleed out? Not necessarily. Sometimes you can have your aorta, which is the major blood vessel coming off of your heart, rupture open, either by an aortic aneurysm that ruptures open, or you can have major issues with an aortic dissection, which basically dissects through the wall of the artery and causing massive problems. But if this is true, that's horribly tragic. I have a pimple that won't heal. What the heck? It's been like months. So pimples in general, inflammation of maybe the skin, hair follicle. So there's lots of different types of pimples. In general, pimples should last, without messing around with it, a week to a couple weeks. That is normal. Once things start getting more persistent and lasting a lot longer, they need to be evaluated. You can have sebaceous cysts, which are basically like clogged ducts of sweat. So it just builds up and it's like this cheesy Dr. Pimple Popper kind of cyst pimple that's there, versus like the normal like thin liquidy ones that are more like abscess infections. Once I had really bad flu. I was sweating a lot, and when my sheets dried, they had a horrible odor, worse than my gym clothes. Does being sick change the composition of your sweat? When you're sick, your body becomes like a full-blown biochemical battleground. Lots of things are happening. When we sweat, specifically from your apocrine glands, there's bacteria there, so you're sweating a lot more, mixing with the bacteria, which causes an odor. Then when you're sick, you're dehydrated, you have dietary changes, so you have different composition of what you're eating or lack of eating. But make sure you're washing your sheets every 1 to 2 weeks. We don't want to just be laying in all the sweat, dead skin cells. It builds up over time. How can one wiggle their ears? Is it genetic? Taught? Man, I've been trying, but no luck. Only about 10 to 20% of the population can voluntarily have good control over their auricular ear muscles to get them moving up and down. Could you be trained to do it? Yes, but it takes a lot of effort. It's one of those weird leftover evolutionary tricks that people can do. Can you wiggle your ears? Let me know in the comments. I heard asparagus is the best food for a hangover. Is that true? Why? Asparagus is gross. So oddly, yes, there are studies to show that the amino acids and the minerals, the nutrients, help boost enzymes that then help the liver with metabolism of alcohol. If you want it to help with a hangover, make sure that you're eating it before you drink. But let's be real, okay? It's not a miracle cure. It won't help your headache, the nausea. That's where Poor Decisions by my company, Life Happens, comes into play to help you and your liver bounce back faster. If you're interested, definitely check it out at lifehappens.com or on Amazon. Is it true women are more susceptible to UTIs because their pee hole is shorter than guys? Shout out to my sister who gets them all the time. Sorry for your sister. But the answer is correct. Yes, a female's urethra is pretty short. It's about 1.5 inches long. So bacteria don't have a very long way to go. Versus in a male, it's about on average 8 inches, which makes it a long travel for bacteria. So it reduces the risk that males get urinary tract infections. If crying flushes out emotional stress, can holding in tears actually store trauma in your eyeballs? I mean, that is a good question, but no, the trauma doesn't literally get stored in your eyeballs. They're not like trauma vaults. By not having tears come out, you might be holding back emotions, which then can cause extra stress and trauma onto your body. So it can affect your nervous system, and then the nervous system then continues to react in your body, causing muscle tension, stress, gut abnormalities, a lot of things, which then will have a systemic effect on your body. If your brain uses electricity, Can a powerful thought be used in the future to power batteries or other machines? That is a great idea. Using thought to control devices. We are almost there in certain ways, like brainwave activity that's connected basically to like almost like computers-ish, like the Neuralink or robotic arms, where we're able to use the brain waves to then cause the action that we want to occur. Power machines with our brains? Probably not likely, because the amount of watts that our brain generates is about 20, which means it could maybe power a dim light, but not a Tesla, not your refrigerator, definitely not your hair dryer. Okay, I love the questions. Thank you so much. So if you guys enjoyed this, definitely check out this playlist right here, binge watch everything. And as always, do me a favor, subscribe, turn on your bell notifications, and hit that like button for me. Thank you so much for watching, and stay healthy, my friends.